IELTS Listening, version 56233. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to section 1 on page 2 of your question booklet. Section 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a customer and a service representative. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5 on page 2. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Superior Home Appliances. This is Ian here.
Oh, hello, yes. I have a new fridge and I'm ringing to report a fault with it. I need you to send someone out to have a look at it.
The type of appliance is a fridge, so fridge has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Superior Home Appliances. This is Ian here.
Oh, hello, yes. I have a new fridge and I'm ringing to report a fault with it. I need you to send someone out to have a look at it.
OK, I'll fill in a customer complaint form and arrange for one of our repair agents to come out to you.
OK then.
Now, can I just get some contact details from you for the form? Your name is?
Jessica? Jessica Brown.
OK. And if I can just get a contact telephone number?
Our home phone number is 5823-2210.
Got it. Now, can I get some more details about the fridge?
Well, it's been playing up since yesterday afternoon.
I see. And is it still under warranty?
Well, I should think so. It's only a couple of weeks old.
That's fine then. Now, I just need to get some more information about the make and model. Is it a top mount, a bottom mount, or a side-by-side?
The freezer is on top.
And have you got the model number there?
Yes, it's here on the instructions booklet. It's S654391X.
OK, so it's silver in colour.
That's right. I thought it was so much nicer than the usual white ones.
Now, if I could just get a few details from you. First, when did you buy the fridge?
Well, as I said, it was only a few weeks ago, but I don't have the receipt in front of me at the moment. I do know that it was delivered on the 6th of February.
OK, well, I can use that date to search on the computer. Here it is. It says here you bought it on January the 12th. Now, what exactly is wrong with the fridge?
Well, my fridge is fitted with an alarm, and it started to go off. It made an awful noise.
So what was wrong?
Well, when I went to check the freezer, it felt pretty warm. It's 10 degrees, and it should be -18, so everything is melting. And then the main part of the fridge doesn't seem to be working either.
I see.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10 on page 2. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
I've made a note of that on the form, and I'll pass it on to the service agent.
When can they come and fix it?
Let's find the closest one to you. Let's see. That's Ken's Appliances, and they've got 2 centres in your area, one near the station and another one in the shopping centre.
Well, we're miles away from the shopping centre, so the station one would be closer.
I'll ring them in a minute, but I should warn you it could take a day or two for them to get to you.
What? What am I going to do without a fridge? Look, there's a fridge full of food there and it's all going off. I'll have to throw it all out, you know.
Yes, I do sympathise.
It's not just that. This is going to affect my business. I run a sandwich shop, and that's where I keep my stock.
I see. Look, Jessica, if you tell me how much the stock is worth, we can send you a cheque for that amount, though there is a maximum of $250.
Well, I've just filled it with $180 worth of meat and salads, so that would be something, I suppose. But how long is my business expected to survive without a fridge? It's just not good enough.
Yes, I understand your concerns, but that's all I can really offer you.
Well, I'd like to speak to someone higher up about this.
I can ask my manager to ring you back by close of business today. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, thank you.
I do apologise for all the inconvenience. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Actually, there is one more thing. The door has a dent in it, on the left-hand side. It wasn't there in the shop, so it must have happened when it was delivered. I'd like that replaced too.
I'll make a note of that too. You'll be hearing from us very soon.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2 on page 3. Section 2. You will hear part of a radio program in which the speaker is talking about a new organisation called Connections. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14 on page 3. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hello. Listeners to this programme will know that we're very keen to foster links within communities, and we think we've hit on a winning idea. I'm going to tell you about a scheme which has been set up as part of our Communities in Action programme for those who'd like to be put in touch with people from different countries and cultures. As the name Connections suggests, we're hoping that the scheme will introduce people who live in this country who will act as hosts to people who've recently arrived here to study or to work for a limited period of time, who will be their guests. Now, if you've got a spare room in your house or flat, you might like to be a host and have someone stay for a weekend. I should point out that no money is involved, as all our hosts are unpaid. But you should not have too much extra expense other than one more person joining you at mealtimes. In the course of their studies or work in this country, some people rarely get the opportunity to socialise. There may be language problems or feelings of shyness, which mean that whatever their age, people can become quite lonely or isolated. If you are prepared to invite someone into your home, you can rely on Connections for a personal introduction, and the timing of the invitation will be to suit you. As I said, the stay is always over a weekend for 2 or 3 nights. And, as the host, the arrangements you make for your visitor will depend on your other commitments. If you're listening to this programme and you would like to take advantage of what Connections can offer a guest, then what I'm going on to say will apply to you. So, what will you, the guest, get out of a visit? You'll gain an insight into the customs and way of life of the country you're staying in. And you'll enjoy home-cooked meals and be able to ask questions about things which interest you, or perhaps even puzzle you. It's early days, but if a weekend stay goes well, relationships might develop over time and turn into lasting and genuine friendships. This would undoubtedly be of advantage to the whole community, as we all become more aware of the ways in which people in different countries live their lives. There's also the possibility that when you return to your own country, you might one day want to invite your hosts to stay with you.
Before you hear the rest of the programme, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20 on page 4. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Right. I hope I've given you enough information on the scheme and what we're setting out to do. I'll now deal with the process for applying, if you'd like to be involved from the point of view of a guest. So have a pencil and some paper ready to jot down what you need to do. Connections is broken up into various small sections, which will deal with your application through the different stages. To begin with, we ask you to make a phone call to our vetting people. We need to know some basic information about you, like how long you're intending to be in this country. The minimum time limit is 3 months. Whether you're working or studying, we require a reference, which must be from the person in authority who you're working with or studying under. This will be used for an identity check. Once that's been sent to the authorities and approved, we'll email you an application form, which you can download. You should complete this and return it with 2 recent passport-sized photographs of yourself. One photo will be held in our records, and the other will be sent to your host family prior to your first weekend visit. Our centre manager will get back to you within a week of receiving your form to let you know that we have it, and if we think there's a suitable match on our files, someone from our interview team will contact you for a face-to-face meeting with a member of staff. At that point, you should have some idea of weekend dates when you're free, which we can put to the host family. However, decisions are not made at the meeting, but you can expect to hear the result from us in a couple of days. Now, the process for those of you interested in welcoming someone...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3 on page 5. Section 3. You will hear 2 health science students called Elliot and Beth discussing research on climate change and allergies. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25 on page 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Have you had a chance to look at the information for our project yet, Beth?
I've had a look at most of the stuff on the relationship between climate change and allergies, and the role played by pollen from flowering plants and trees.
Yeah, me too. The main message is that seasonal allergies seem to be getting worse. In just the last 20 years, the amount of pollen that's produced by the flowers on birch trees has tripled, and 1 in 4 people suffers from either hay fever or asthma, which is triggered by pollen.
I read something about allergy sufferers being more likely to have a vitamin D deficiency because we no longer take cod liver oil as a vitamin supplement, like many people used to do in the 1950s in Britain. And since then, allergies have quadrupled in most European countries. But it was only in Britain that cod liver oil was so popular, so that argument doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't seem that relevant.
What seems to be happening now is that an increasing number of people are getting their first attack in their 40s and 50s.
That must be because of the link with climate change causing rising temperatures. But CO2 levels are seriously affecting pollen counts too.
As much as milder winters.
Definitely. CO2 helps stimulate plant growth, and several recent studies have shown that when plants are exposed to more CO2, they produce more pollen.
Really? So people might experience more severe allergic symptoms in future?
That's right.
And another factor is that the pollen season is changing.
Yes, scientists are predicting spring will come 5 weeks earlier by 2130.
That's in the long term. But that doesn't mean that spring will come earlier every year. Look at last winter. That was really cold until March, and the pollen season was delayed. Whereas this year, spring came earlier and lasted longer.
Right. And another thing we should mention is ragweed.
As an example of a plant species moving into new areas as a result of climate change.
Yes. In the US, it's already the major allergen, affecting millions of people in August and September. But we're starting to see it grow in Europe for the first time, which is really worrying because it's so allergenic.
The problem with tree pollen is also worse in cities because there are so many hard surfaces around and the pollen doesn't get absorbed so much, just stays in the air.
Yeah. Wasn't the pollen shown to be 3 times higher in one city?
I think so. So because of this, many cities have started to ban the planting of certain types of trees.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30 on page 6. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So shall we look at the different data tables for seasonal changes for pollen in Europe?
OK, but I think we should just focus on the trees and plants which we have the most data for. So that's oak trees and birch trees and grass.
Yes, that makes it more manageable. Shall we go through the data for each country in detail and pick out anything interesting?
All right. So, starting with Austria. Well, here we've only got data for birch pollen. I wonder why there's no data for oak or grass.
It would be interesting to compare with neighbouring countries.
True.
The picture in France is unusual.
Yes, the pollen season starts earlier for both oak and birch, but it doesn't start any earlier for grass. I wonder why that is. In the Netherlands, we've got complete data for all 3 plants.
So what does it show? Grass and birch pollen are only starting a few days earlier, but oak pollen is starting much earlier, 18 days in fact. That's unusual. There's not such a big difference in other countries.
No. Switzerland's an interesting case. The pollen season starts here earlier than in the past for oak, birch and grass.
Yeah, from 21 days to 14 days earlier.
Yeah. The UK shows a different picture again.
Yeah. Here, the problem is that wet summers have extended the grass pollen season from 5 weeks to 8 weeks, which is bad news for allergy sufferers.
Right. Well, I think we should have another look.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4 on page 7. Section 4. You will hear a university professor giving a lecture on the influence of children on the adult diet. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on pages 7 and 8. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we continue with our series of lectures on diet and society in the 21st century. We are all aware of the obesity epidemic facing our society. The reasons for this are well documented and are mainly due to poor eating habits coupled with too little exercise. In fact, a National Health and Nutrition Survey here in the U.S. concluded that the average total food intake increased considerably between the years 1971 and 2000. This appears to be a general trend across most age groups. In fact, apart from the over 60s, all areas of American society are consistently above the dietary guidelines for caloric intake and saturated fat. However, total fat consumption is highest for teenagers, and there is a clear correlation with fast food consumption. Among the wide range of factors influencing an individual's dietary choices, one of the strongest influences is the home. It will come as no surprise that within a family, the fat intakes of husbands and wives and parents and children who cohabit are remarkably similar. Many people assume that this relationship indicates the influence of parents on their children, but we wanted to ask if children influence poor diets in adults. This hypothesis had not been tested in a national sample until now. In our study, we focused only on adults, and we set our lower age limit at 17 and the upper one at 65. The key variable was the presence or absence of children, so we identified only those adults whose children were under 17. Other variables included the age of the adult, level of education they had reached, their ethnic background, their income, and foreign-born status. To obtain our data, first we conducted interviews in the respondents' own homes, and all in all we interviewed 6,600 adults aged over 17. Then we invited them to mobile examination centers where surveys were conducted. From this information, we were able to focus not only on the total fat intake, but also on the person's total caloric consumption. Our results show that the presence of children led to significantly higher levels of both fat consumption and saturated fat in adults. We found on average that adults with children in the home ate 4.9 grams per day of fat more than adults without children. This result is consistent irrespective of race, gender, or age. The foods more commonly were convenience items high in fat or sugar, including pizza, salty snacks, and ice cream. Interestingly, there is a significantly higher percentage of adults in this group who drink milk. There are many explanations for this increased fat intake. Hectic schedules where parents try to balance work, family, and leisure put time at a premium. Another issue is children's preference for fatty foods or foods with a high sugar content. Fast foods and ready-to-eat foods are convenient choices. It is inconvenient to prepare different meals for both the children and the parents, so it is likely that adults consume the same as their children. Of course, there were limitations to our study. One of these is that we did not take into account the number of minors in each household, which could have an effect on the adult who feeds the children. In addition, this study does not take into account the relationship of the adult to the minor. We could also postulate that the older a child gets, the more independent he or she becomes, and so the influence a child has on an adult may lessen depending on the age of the child. In terms of recommendations as a result of this study, we would like to see more research conducted to overcome the limitations outlined earlier. We also feel there is a need for even further research into the influence that friends can have on our fat intake, given the clear link we've established between family members.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.